which is about my childhood. And my childhood was all about education. Sometimes you say education, just because it seems so much of it. It started with my grandmother in the Bahamas, who growing up worked for a white family. The husband was a medical doctor, and from what I was told, they always got newspapers from the States. And in those newspapers, my grandmother, again, just a young girl, would read that there were schools in the United States for black children. And she wanted to, the old-fashioned way, get married, have babies, old-fashioned way, and send her children to school. And so she did just that. Got married in the Bahamas, Harbor Island, end of the 19th century. My grandfather and grandmother went to Key West and stayed there for several years, where 2 babies were born. And then they decided to move to Miami. My grandmother had read that black children had schools. There were schools for black children. So she was trying to get to Atlanta, to either Jacksonville or Atlanta, where the schools were, and they were church schools. And so got to Miami in 1903. So our family's been here more than 100 years. From 1903 to 1913, 5 more children were born. 7 children in 13 years. Could not move, as they say, another feather. With 7 children, that close together, especially that close together in age, they were here for the duration. It's interesting because they were born before the end of World War II. All of them, well, I was born before the end of World War II. And by the time I was born, you can count your fingers and check your Google, but by the time I was born, all 7 were college graduates and professionals, and had returned to Miami. 2 were medical doctors, board certified. 1 a judge, a lawyer who later became a judge, and the other 4 teachers. Education. Growing up, that's all that I heard. It wasn't a matter of, are you going to college? It's, have you filled out the application yet? In church, in school, in the community, it was always all about education. It's education that is going to give us all that we need to be accepted as citizens. That may or may not have been the truth, but they believed it, and so did we. As a graduate of Booker T. Washington High School, it's Booker T. Washington Senior High School. Know that at the very beginning, black children, by custom and law, in the 17 southern states throughout the United States, could only go to 8th grade. When you finished 8th grade, by law and custom, you had to get out and work. You either had to work in someone's home, or you had to be a laborer helping to construct buildings, or you were lost. You could work with the farming. There was a lot of farming down in South Miami area, Homestead. A lot of the vegetables for the country grown there. But those were the choices. My grandmother, and there were other families too who didn't believe that. And they sent their children to what we now know as HBCUs. But many of them were colleges that had high school departments. Tuskegee, Spelman, Morehouse, name them. Florida A&M. That's where the HBCU started, by providing a high school program for Black children. And so they were sent away so that they could finish.
Thank you. So your family's legacy, it also reveals a larger map about Black migration. The Bahamian presence in Miami has been foundational to the city for generations. How do you think your Bahamian heritage shaped your perspective and the work that you've done in education, preservation, and community building?
Education and working in the community has been an important part of my life. I think about the washerwomen and the laborers who actually made it possible for Miami to have magic. Think about the hotels. Well, let's start with the railroad. And Henry Flagler extended the railroad from Palm Beach to Miami, of course, with the insistence of Julia Tuttle and the financial help of the Brickles. But think about the laying of the rails. They didn't just get there. In order to have a train, you've got to dig up the ground and prepare the ground and lay the rails. And it was the Black laborers that did that, primarily Blacks. We're talking about late 1800s. And so from there, you build the railroad, you build the cars, the train comes, the hotels have to be built. This was all Black labor. And from there, once the hotels were built and the tourists were to start coming, it was the Black laborers who worked in the hotels, and equal to that, it was the Black women, the washerwomen, who took care of the clothes. Now think about it. There were no washers and no dryers. How did they get the clothes clean? Couldn't take them to the laundromat. Well, what's going on? What did they do? It was the Black women, my grandmother was one of them, who walked across the railroad track from Colortown, now known as Overtown, picked up the bundles of clothes from the tourists, as well as the linen. Think about it. The sheets, the blankets. You need blankets in Miami sometimes, on the water. All the linen for the dining room. Who did that? Who did that? It was the Black women who walked picked all of those dirty clothes up in bundles and walked back across the railroad track. Well, certainly after they got back across the railroad track, they could throw them in the washer. Well, The washers at that time were composed of 5 tin tubs outside with rub boards. Anybody here seen a rub board? You know what a rub board is? No? Okay.
Yep.
Google it when you get through. Yeah, a rub board. You'd love that. So one tub, tin tub they call them, one tin tub had soap for washing and scrubbing, because you had to scrub those clothes and the linen. Another one for rinsing. And then because there was something called Palm Beach White, the linens. Have you been to a resort? And at the resort, for the most part, they were white. Yes. I've been at Quayside now for 5 years, and I'm just beginning to acquire a few whites, linens, overrated, because they're so fragile. And so it was the black women who, the washing tub and the rinsing tub and the blue tub, and then starch. You starched, argon starch. We even know the name of the starch. And then, of course, it had to be ironed. That's the fun. Anyone in here like to iron? You know what an iron is. Okay, just barely. And so they had to iron the clothes. And you know, when you scorch something white, you have to start all over again. And so it was this kind of community that the people lived in and helped make and put the magic in Miami.
Yes, and I just want to direct our attention to the visuals in the back. So this is Ida Ellen Roberts, Dr. Fields' grandmother, born in the Bahamas in 1876. And this is a newspaper celebrating 100 years living in Miami's colored town. So just to give you all a visual of the long-lasting history that Dr. Fields is referring to, because it was the dreams of her grandmother, who was a washerwoman in Miami, bringing forth a family that valued education, that produced so much care within the city through their service. And with that legacy as your foundation, you came of age during a period of profound transformation, which I would say feels very similar to what we're going through now. A product of Miami-Dade Public Schools, you graduated, as you said, from Booker T. Washington High School, and then you attended Spelman College, where you became an active participant in the civil rights movement. Can you tell us about that period of your life?
In high school, well, start off with elementary school, at Phyllis Wheatley Elementary School in Overtown. I guess we could start off even further back than that. In nursery school, there was a nursery school that was started at Booker T. Washington Senior High School in Overtown, because there were white women who called the principal at the school and let him know that they were not satisfied with the students who were graduating from the school with the work that they were doing in their homes, that the students did not know how to wash and iron and take care of the children. So there needed to be something done about that. And I don't know whether they called the principal directly, probably not, probably called downtown with the superintendent. At any rate, in the early 40s, it was decided that Booker T. Washington High School would become the school that would in fact have a nursery school, that at that time boys and girls were taught home economics You may not have even heard that term. Home economics was to help you prepare to be an adult and a parent. They actually taught it in school. Okay. So I was a part of that group. In fact, the teacher was Elaine Adderley, and in fact, she was the home economics teacher in charge of that program. She was my mother's oldest sister. The opportunity to be in a room with white people was very rare, but in high school, there was a group called the Intergroup Youth Council. You're answering your question about me being in civil rights. I hadn't really thought about it before. But the what is now known as Mosaic Miami, with Matt Anderson, started off with the National Council of Christians and Jews, and they had an intergroup youth council. They had students from Booker T. Washington and Edison. Edison was Miami High. Booker T. Washington and Miami High students were selected to meet once a month down at the YWCA to see if white people, children, and black children could be in the same room. I didn't tell her this story. So once a month, a select group of us would go to this meeting, and they sat on one side of the room and we sat on another. And I don't know what we talked about, but there was a discussion, I guess, about what was happening in the world or in Miami. I don't remember. What I do remember is that when the sponsors forgot to call the police to tell them that this was the day that we were meeting, it was always like the third or fourth Thursday. Sometimes when we would get to the Y, the police would come in and harass us. So our sponsors always had to call in advance to say that a group of black students and white students are meeting at the Y. It was against the law for black people and white people to be in the same room when I was in high school. And I graduated in 1960. What? Yes. Okay. So, time to go to college. Again, it isn't, are you going? I mean, I had 7 people ahead of me, plus my cousins, with all of this education. You know, what's a girl to do? So I sent the application off. They accepted me. That surprised me. Okay, that's good. Spelman College, Atlanta, Georgia. I had an aunt. One of my mother's sisters went to high school at Spelman and then came back and went to Florida A&M. I didn't know at the time that I had an aunt, that my father's aunt, Aunt Elizabeth Jenkins Morrison, graduated from Spelman College in 1914. I didn't learn that until I was at Spelman, yes. And so we went to Atlanta, a whole group of us, some going to Clark, some going to Spelman, some going to Morehouse, Morris Brown, Atlanta University Center. And we almost get there, and I see these flags, Confederate flags. So that made me a bit uneasy. When I got to the dorm, and I think they had telephones all hanging on the wall at the time. Nothing on a cell. Didn't know what that was. That meant going to jail. But I called my and say, I think I'm in the wrong place. They've got flags here that make me uncomfortable. She said, that's all right. You're there for an education. You'll be fine. Just stick with it. I took the test, the entrance test, and I did all right, but I failed reading. Did I tell you that? Okay. Well, I wasn't the only one. They had several classes of remedial reading at Spelman College. Ooh, ouch. So I was assigned to Christine King Ferris's class. Well, who is Christine King Ferris? Very confident woman who had been at Spelman for about 10 or 15 years. Her family was living in Atlanta, and she had this whole pedigree behind her. And that's good, but I was there to try to get reading so that I could get out of there. And they finished college because my mother kept saying, you're going to have to get a job. I didn't understand that because I was happy the way I was. Why did I need a job? I had everything I needed. I didn't. Okay. You know that story. And so after the first 2 weeks, Christine King Ferris, who wore heels, I guess about 4 or 5 inches. She wasn't more than 5 feet. And ruby red lips, and she was always pristine and glorious and didn't like it because we couldn't read. And she was sure to let us know that before we left her class, we would be reading. 2 weeks into the class, she said, my brother is going to be coming to Atlanta, and they are going to start marching to Rich's department store. How many of you all have charge cards at Rich's department store? We all raised our hands. Mine was to go to buy food. I wasn't worried about the clothes at the time. But either way, whether you were buying food or clothes, you could not try on the clothes, or you could not sit down to eat the food. Like most of the department stores in the South, you could buy and then you had to leave. You couldn't try on shoes. Can you imagine buying shoes? And of course on the internet you can do it now, but you can send them back. But then you could not send them back. You just had to use a string to measure your feet. And then guess that using the string would give you the measurement for your foot for the shoe. Does that make sense? No, it didn't make sense then either. But that's what we had to do. And her brother was one of those, with Hosea Williams and the others, who was going to change that. We were going to start marching from the Atlanta University Center all the way down to Rich's department store. Well, listen, I'm an only child, so having a brother didn't mean anything to me. So her brother's coming, so what? What got my attention was the fact that she said we were going to be able to wear dungarees. Dungarees. What's a dungaree? Blue jeans. What do you call them now? Jeans. Okay, no blue, just jeans. Okay. But in 1960 women did not wear pants outside of their homes, and probably not inside their homes either. Women were not allowed to wear pants. Okay, I said allowed. And then she was going to write a note and give us permission to walk out of the gate. That's a whole Spellman story that we'll tell you at another time. But to be able to walk out of the gate down Fair Street was going to be a privilege. And so we did that. And who was there but her brother and some of his friends? Hosea Williams is one that I can think of, and others.
Julian Bond wasn't there?
Julian Bond was there, yes. And what they did was to have us make coffee, do what young ladies are expected to do, make coffee, and the press releases, we would do those kinds of things. It wasn't, and then in the spring, we started marching, walking from the Atlanta University campus down to Rich's department store. And it wasn't until we started marching down there with the Ku Klux Klan doing a counter march, and they were in full regalia. Sometimes they had bags, shopping bags with bowling balls that they would swing and hit us in the stomach. I wasn't one who was hit, but some were, calling themselves killing the next generation. That we began to understand what was going on, and that her brother, who always was in charge and walking with us with a hat on and a jacket, coat, was Martin Luther King. We started seeing it on TV. And I remember my mother calling and saying, I hope you are not in that group, because if you are, I may lose my job. She was a teacher in Dade County and was very much afraid of losing her job because someone may have seen her walking in Atlanta. And so civil rights was not something that I got into by choice. It was something that was just a part of life. And freedom is not free. And I'm always concerned when we get one victory and people spend the rest of their lives celebrating because one thing went right. This is a continuous struggle. And so you have to do it. You have to do it for yourself, and you have to do it for the community. Civil rights.
I just want to direct our attention to photos of the protests that happened in Atlanta. And these are some of who were taking part in the effort to integrate Rich's department store. And these are archival images that was well documented that you all covered on in your other time. So from this foundation, can you all hear me? Yes. Okay. Yes. So from this foundation of having a strong family background that valued education and caring for the community, and then going to college and learning more about how freedom is not free, and it's something that we must fight for. into creating the Black Archives History and Research Foundation? What was the spark that ignited that in you?
Well, after graduating from Spelman in 1964, I vowed never to come back to Miami. Too much family. I just couldn't imagine living here. And so I went home for the summer. I had earned a scholarship to Pratt Institute and also to Atlanta University because by that time I decided that I wanted to be a librarian. I had volunteered at the library at Spelman, and they hired me to put the books up for a while. I thought that was a pretty good job. And then I noticed that the librarians, for the most part, were ordering books. I said, well, I can do that. My mother said, I have to work. I can sit down and order books. I had no idea what else was involved with that. But it was it was an opportunity to learn something. And if I had known that library science was something that I wanted, I could have started at Atlanta University while I was at Spelman if I had been paying attention. But you know how that is. And so I went home for the summer, came home for the summer, and I was expecting to go back to Atlanta University. I didn't want to go to Pratt and did not accept that scholarship. I didn't want to live in New York. I'm so used to grass and sun and all of that. I wouldn't live there. And so I went to, I was at home. My mother decided to find a job for me without me knowing it. She called around, as mothers do. I've done it myself. And called around who needed a librarian. I only had 6 hours in library science and worked at a college library. But she did, one of her friends, Mrs. Azalyn Pinckney, was principal at a school at Gould's Elementary, Gould's, Florida. You know how far that is from Brownside? Yeah. I was hired. Of course, I went in for the interview with stockings and high heels and a hat, as I would from Spelman. And I was hired immediately. She was desperate, I'm sure. But anyway, it was my first job. I stayed there, and while I was there, because the distance from where I lived was so long, I knew that I needed to get closer. I was able to get a job with the school system for a federal program that trained 11 faculty members who would then go into a certain school, replace that faculty, the faculty that was being replaced was then sent to a training so that they could learn how to deal with Black people. I said it as best I could. And white people. So we were sent first to South Miami, senior high school, and then we were sent to Northwestern. And when we were sent to a school, there were 11 of us, a librarian, English teacher, this, that, whatever. The ones we replaced were sent to a school, an area downtown, where they were trained what to do in an integrated, I don't know that they even used integrated at that time, that word, what to do in a situation where Negroes and whites were in the same instructional program. So I was there for a year, and then I was appointed, selected, assigned to Myrtle Grove Elementary School in Opelika, and it was all white at the time. I did not know it, but I was the first person of color on the faculty. And the first day I got there, walking through the door with my Louis Vuitton, and kind of going through the front door, bumped with one of the faculty members, other faculty members going through. She looked at me, white woman, and she said, "You haven't cleaned my room." My first day, I'm thinking, what? They didn't tell me I had to do that. I thought I was a librarian. So I didn't say anything. I mean, I'm just getting there. First job. So then during the week, I saw her again and passed her in the hall. And she said this time, and pointed her finger, "I'm going to report you because you have not cleaned my room." I got scared. So I said, I wondered whether I should go back to that place or not. And I thought, well, just calm yourself. They will introduce you at faculty meeting. There was always a faculty meeting on Tuesdays. Got to the faculty meeting, and they had made all the announcements and everything, and I was in the back, they getting ready to adjourn, and I hadn't been introduced, so I raised my hand, and the principal said, "Oh, Dorothy Jenkins is our new librarian, and please welcome her." And so, they kind of nodded. First black person on the faculty. Later, when it got outside, she came up to me and said, "I'm so sorry." I said, "Not a problem, it's okay." I wanted to say we all look alike, but I wouldn't dare say that. We got to be good friends. Who I did not get to be friends with was Mrs. Gerard, who was the library clerk. She had not even been close to a black person, let alone work for one or with one. And she was just beside herself. Whenever books were ordered and they were brought to the desk, I had an office desk, and she had a table as a desk. And she was just always so annoyed that she would have to open the books on her desk, and that the person delivering the books, especially if it was a white man, would see her and see me sitting behind an office desk, a regular sized desk. I mean, it was just something that she could not stomach. And I hope I'm not the reason, but she did not come back the second semester. And so it was that kind of environment. We're talking about the 60s now. That kind of environment where black people and white people did not know each other, did not have an opportunity to learn that we are, as Enid would say, we's one, that we are all people struggling to live and to survive. In 1974, I was still at Myrtle Grove preparing for the bicentennial, the 200th birthday celebration of our nation. And you all weren't here, but I was here. And I saw all of the ads that were on TV and in the newspaper and in magazines about everybody participating in the 200th birthday of America. So I thought, well, to teach is to learn twice. I'm going to say it again. To teach is to learn twice. In order to teach something, you've got to learn it. Okay. So I knew a little bit, I thought, about Miami's Black history. I didn't know then that my folks had been here since 1903, but I knew they had been here a long time. And oh, I was sick and tired of hearing their stories. I was annoyed growing up. They were always telling stories about blacks, how blacks helped make Miami City, how they built how they helped build the train and the railroad and the washerwomen and the this and the that. I didn't want to hear it anymore. But I figured it's an important story, and I wondered if they're telling the truth. That was really what I was thinking. So I said, I'll go get books from the library. Obviously, they didn't have any in my library, but I said, I'll get books from downtown and see what other people have said about early Miami and black people. Because of the time, I had two babies, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and a then husband in law school, full-time at the University of Miami. My point is, there was no time, extra time to do anything. One Saturday, he would come to the library and I would keep the children. The other Saturday, I would keep the children and he'd come to the library. And so it was my Saturday to keep the children. And I thought, well, I will, this is 1974 now, before seatbelts. Well, before we could afford seatbelts, other people may have had them, but we didn't. And so you could imagine a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old rolling around in the back of the car, in the back seat. That I'll call ahead and see how many books they have, and ask them to pull the books for me so I can just, have them bring them to the door. I'll stay in the car. I'll sign the books and get them that way. We'll figure it out. So I called the library and I asked for books written by black people in Dade County. The library clerk put me on hold, and after what seemed like an enormous length of time, came back and said, nope, we don't have any books written about black people. Isn't this the county library? She said, yes. I said, well, how many books are in the Miami-Dade County Library? She said, about 10,000. I said, and you don't have any books about blacks? Then the answer, why? And the answer she gave changed my life and the life of the entire community as it relates to black history. Her answer was, and I quote, I guess those people haven't thought enough of themselves to write their history. Really? I guess those people, I didn't have my collard green accent on that day. I guess those people haven't thought enough of themselves to write their history. I was shocked. I was upset. But I couldn't prove her wrong. She had books about Martin Luther King and George Washington Carver, national people, but nothing local. And I just couldn't imagine And so she said, trying to get me off the phone, I think, why don't you call the Historical Museum of Southern Florida? They've been in business since the 40s. Surely they will have something. Now, usually when I get a referral like that and a phone number, I get it, thank the person, and put it in my purse. And, you know, a week or two later, when I'm digging in there, I will pick it up and make a call. But that day I felt compelled to follow up. So immediately I called the number, and the person who answered was Dr. Thelma Peters. She identified herself as a retired teacher of Edison Senior High School. And she said that she was writing a book on Lemon City, now known as Little Haiti, and that her colleague, Arva Moore Parks, was writing a book on Coconut Grove, and that both of them had interviewed some black people and gotten some pictures, but no one seemed interested beyond that. And I said, well, I am. And so we started talking. And she wanted to know about my background and my family. And I told her that I knew of a family that had 7 children. All had finished high school and college and were professionals and returned to Miami before the end of World War II. She said, well, no, she had been doing research in Miami for over 20 years and she had never heard of a family like that. So I assured her that they did exist and it was my mother's family. And she wanted to know immediately, can I interview them? And I was able to take them to visit and for her to interview them when the Historical Museum was across from the Skya. That interview, done in 1974, I got a chance to see the box with the reel in it just recently. And I'm looking forward to listening to their voices. I haven't heard their voices in more than 50 years. Right now, they don't have the equipment. It was a Wallensack tape recorder. The tape recorder was this big. And I spoke with someone from the Library of Congress last night, and she assured me that they have the technology to listen to those voices and to digitize them. So that is going to be something exciting. I will let you know so that we can go. I invite you to go with me, yes, to History Miami to see that and to hear those voices. My.
The seminar just got out. I couldn't miss it, but I'm sorry to be late. Haven't seen you in
A scholar who's worked with me many years with his research. Yes.
Well, thank you, Dr. Fields. Respondent and 3 students who have prepared questions that I would like to get answered ahead of time. So if our student respondent could please introduce yourself and ask your question. You can stand up. Yeah, you can stand up.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ava Marie Stewart. My majors are psychology and business law on the pre-law track. I'm growing here at the University of Miami. And I am the student respondent for today's talk, and I speak for my entire class when I'm saying that we are so very grateful for your time, and we're so thankful for all of the new knowledge that we've gained, and it all ties in perfectly with what we're currently studying in class as well. So one moment in the interview that really kind of jumped out to me was whenever you were talking about your mother's college experience when she was accepted based on her wit, but then rejected due to her skin tone. And that is a feeling of rejection that unfortunately many Black children have to experience. And in class at this moment, we're learning about integration in Miami, so it's really interesting and it's a nice new perspective to go from hearing about kind of things that have happened to hearing a real world example. So we are thankful for that. And then given your extensive experience as not only an educator, but an extremely degreed and educated woman who fought racism to be able to learn, what would you say to the Black youth who are unsure of the value of education?
I guess that Booker T. Washington said it best. Not only said it, but established Tuskegee, that without education, you can be lost. And of course, in this age of AI, with all the technology, without an education, you will just be a lost soul. It's mandatory that you not only get, that you participate in getting it. You know, sometimes we just go through the motions. I know there are no students like that in here. I know you're all very active in the process. Hint, hint. But sometimes you just, at some point, I think I did too. I just kind of went through the motions because they said it was important. But trust me, without it, you will not be able to get very far. And if you really, really think about it, it can be fun. Yeah? Sometimes? Yeah? All right.
Thank you, Eva and Dr. Michael?
I just want to start by saying thank you for giving your time and speaking to us. One of my questions is, looking ahead, what part of Miami Black history still needs some more attention and research?
Well, what part of Black history will need more attention?
Yeah, in Miami.
All of it. I mean, we're just scratching the surface. Just scratching the surface. There's so many parts of it that we still don't know, and that was the reason for starting the archives. It was from that conversation with the librarian at the downtown library that I realized that there really wasn't anything. And it wasn't because the people didn't care. It was because, as my uncle said, they were too busy trying to survive. That there were so many obstacles against them individually and as a race. And what we have to do now is to learn from that. To learn from what happened in the past so that we don't make the same mistakes again. Because some of those things are, unfortunately, may repeat themselves. Remember I said that my mother and her brothers and sisters, well, the younger ones, the older ones, the first 4 children had to go away to school. They were not able to go to school here after 8th grade. And if you read the news, that's beginning to happen again in some places. So education is paramount. It's for all of us. Share the wealth. Education is your treasure. All right.
Thank you. Art?
My name is Esteemed. How can history and archive help us address current issues
learning from the past, no, learning about the past and using it to better your situations. If you learn what's happened in the past, you can know what to do for the future. Many of the things that we went through, and history is cyclical, so it goes around. So some of the things you hear, many of the things that you're hearing about now are not new. Go back in history and see what they were doing during the Depression. See what they were doing in 1913, the laws that were being passed, the things that were being done. And if we know about them, we can and should use those examples to make a better future. These were all very good questions. Yes, yes.
We have one more.
Okay.
First off, I want to thank you for letting my class and I attend this. I know we all enjoyed it.
Thank you.
My question is, if you could leave one message for future generations about Black Miami, what would it be?
That the struggles and the accomplishments were about equal. And by that I mean that when I asked my uncle, and I was really infuriated that there were no books in the library written by blacks, I expected an armful. And he said, no, we have been too busy trying to survive. And so learning what they went through, we should use those examples, not only to survive, but to make life better. And it can and it will be done with your generation. You can do it. You can do it. Don't feel downtrodden. Think about the people who went through all that happened. I keep thinking about the Depression, but for some of us, the Depression was forever. Think about things that people have gone through and have come out on the other side. You have to just be determined that you're not going to let it get you down. That you are going to move forward. And you can do it. And I'm expecting you to. I'm going to be looking for you. I'm going to be looking for you. Not on the football field. Well, yeah, that too, I guess. Baseball and rowing. That's quite a good group. But don't be discouraged. The world has been through this before. And it's going to happen again. We're going to come out on the other end, but you've got to do your part. Stay alert, know what's going on, and think about it. You're bright. You're smart. I said it, I'll say it again. You are smart. I'm talking to each and every one of you. You're here. You're here. And you will do well. All right, I'll be looking for you.
Thank you, Dr. So at this point, I would like a pause so all of our students can leave. I know we have classes and nothing to do, but if anyone would like to stay and ask Dr. Fields any more questions, she will be here for a few minutes. But thank you all so much for your attention.
Just 1 minute. On September the 26th, there will be a book discussion here. The title is We Pursue Our Magic, a spiritual history of black feminism. We'll be here 4:30 September the 26th. So you are invited to come back and participate in the discussion. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So nice to meet you. My pleasure. I got a PhD now. I wrote it down.
Okay, good. Pulitzer Prize in history. Thank you so much. This year, yes, you can Google her. Google Pulitzer Prize, 2025 history. All right, I'm gonna be looking out for you. I got to stand.
I gotta go to a seminar.
Yes.
I said, you gotta make it too. You know?
Yes, yes.
Just realize. You know, research.
Thank you for coming. All right. It's great to meet you, I guess. Yes.
So many.
Yes, yes.
And you know, thanks to my opportunity to get into that art,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
I discovered.
Yes. Oh, yes, yes, Uncle John.
So you talking about it, that's the thing in mind.
Of course, of course.
And it was on the national stage.
Yes.
Because it became with the NAACP, the first
Yes.
stop discriminations
Yes.
that reached the Supreme Court.
There's so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not.